welcome, welcome on this second day after the Thanksgiving holidays. We're all trying to get back into routines. My guest is Nancy Sargent today, who's an expert at marketing strategies. And we were just kind of talking before the call, even about things we wanted to talk about in school. Because, and it's funny because I don't like to do these as scripted things because it's a lot better that way because you never know where the conversation is going to go. And I thought the first thing we would want to talk about is the idea of marketing during the holidays and networking, because there's all different ways to do that. I know Nancy, you told me you'd be changing up some of what you're doing. So, what are the things that you're doing now during the holidays, maybe that you might not do at other times in the year?
First of all, Ken, thanks for having me. And yeah, so yep, I'm Nancy Sargent of Sargent Marketing, and I help nonprofits and small businesses and entrepreneurs reach their profits in the shortest path without breaking the bank. And what we're doing with those clients this month is helping everyone take a deep breath and help them really get grounded and celebrate what they accomplished this year. If we think about what 2022 was, somewhat perhaps what we might call normal. It's not my favorite word. I can't think of another one right now, but a lot of regrouping went on and a lot of stabilization, and that was really good. And you know what? Everyone has a big to do list, and they didn't finish it all for the year. Neither did I, and they can't. But we're not going to try to scramble and get all that done now. We're going to plan for next year, but we're going to take stock of what we did, and we're going to do the essential things in December that will set that foundation and make that transition as healthy for them, the leaders of the companies, the employees of the companies, and help their clients feel appreciated.
I know when I was in corporate, this time of year was I think production stuff was was put on a freeze, so we couldn't do anything until
Oh,
God. There we
bless
go.
you.
Thank you. So we couldn't do anything when things were at UPS. When things would go into production November, December, we couldn't do anything to upset the apple cart that way, but we still did development. We still did things we were going to do next year. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at. It doesn't stop that you're going to do what you're looking to do, but you're just not going to go live. It's just, dealing with a strategy of some type.
Right. Well, I can't say we're freezing production.
Right.
That's I'm not there yet. But for example, later today, right after this, like immediately after this, I'll be on with one of my multi-site healthcare clients, and we're
Hmm.
going to recap what the community events, the Community Health Matters Tour did for them this year. For 2 years, they couldn't go in the field after we had a good rhythm going, and so this year the events, they only sometimes popped up like, oh, next month, yes, we are going to be live, especially in the first half of the year. So we prepared about 6 questions to ask the what we call brand ambassadors who go into the field about their
Hmm.
experiences, about the visitors to their booths experiences,
Hmm.
and get all the stakeholder engagement there so we can plan. And the executive director and I, we have lots of ideas for next year for the tour, but if we listen carefully today, we will come up with, I'm sure, something different. And in preparation, perfect timing, tomorrow we're actually doing some big scale brainstorming for next year. So that is one of the types of activities we're doing with clients. For myself personally, for the Sargent marketing business, I am doing some of the largest scale networking that I've done. I'm not even going to say this year, in years, because for a couple of years I didn't do it. And I'm going to hold my own webinar next Tuesday. Um, and then on Wednesday, I'm going to the statewide conference for nonprofits in New Jersey. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to the Tampa, Florida area for a conference where speakers and business owners who do webinars, who do lives, who sell from stages are all going to be together to spend 4 days really getting our strategies straight for 2023. While I'm there, though, I know my purpose is to find clients who might need my services and also to find other speakers who align with my audiences where we can share audiences. So I'm going there with very, very solid business goals. And the outcome that I want to have for that is to have meetings on the calendar with people that were there when I come back and people in my next webinar.
I'd love to know for some of the people on the chat to just chime in and mention some of the things you're looking to do to network during the holidays. I'm a big believer in following up and staying in touch with people and going to networking events. I've just started going back to in-person events, and that's actually where you and I first met, Nancy. I went to an in-person event in Ridgewood, which is not too far from where I live, and I was like, oh my God, the feeling of seeing people, the feeling of interacting. And you did a presentation there, and you can't really put a dollar figure on just meeting people again.
No, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And in our case, we re-met each other.
Yes.
We figured out that, yes, we did work at the Record newspaper many years ago at the same time, either when I was internally working there or when I was their publicist, once I had my own business. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like I worked there for 20 years because of both relationships, which was really awesome.
And I know, and I started as a newspaper reporter because this was my dream leaving college, is I was going to go into journalism and I was going to do stuff. And life happens, and I did a pivot into IT and development. So now what I'm doing now is kind of a combination of that. It's a combination of writing and listening and reporting in a much different way. And I know we were actually having a conversation before about even the process of how you even decide how you're going to do networking, and the priorities to that. And just, I know for me, and I talked about this with some people, some family members and friends, this whole process of doing these LinkedIn Lives, which started in June of 2020, I had no idea what was going to happen as a result. And Nancy Aronson, who's actually just put a comment in the chat here, Nancy was actually my first guest, if you will. And we were just having a conversation. I set this up on Meetup. I figured whoever shows up, shows up. I think Nancy and I would chat, and word of mouth came about, and one thing just led to another. And, then you're feeling almost like, what have I done? In a good way. Don't misunderstand. Mm-hmm. But then people are counting on you. And I had never envisioned how this was going to turn out. And Carol McCullough, been chatting with folks both virtually and in person. So Nancy, how did you get started with what you're doing, from many years ago?
So I actually started these in the summer of 2021. Mm-hmm. And it was a little more intentional than it sounds like yours organically happened. But in my strategy of creating a new division for Sargent Marketing, I created a division called the Milestone Marketing Blueprint Masterclasses because I realized that I did have a system for helping my clients. Mm-hmm. And I had a way that I took them through a process of building their strategy and then helping them implement it very wisely with their marketing so it could be investments, not expenses. And I had gotten that feedback. So I created that division, and I wanted to get the word out. So I started, one of the ways was a visibility campaign by having a show called Milestone Mindset Live, because that blended my yoga and my business philosophy, and had a few guests in 2021, cut my teeth on that, and then decided in 2022 that it would become a regular feature, which I now do 3 times a month, most months. And then on the first week of the month, I normally do a free webinar on Zoom. And it's become such a joy. So many outcomes have happened for the guests that were on the show, as well as for myself. And we can talk about one of them. I'd love to share in a little bit. But so it was very intentional. And if I look at the very first ones that I did and where I'm comfortable now, and I can only imagine how it'll be at the end of next year. It's just been so fun.
For me, the biggest challenge, honestly, in the very beginning, was finding people who wanted to chat and to even put themselves out there. Job seekers, as by nature, they're not in a great place in the beginning. So I wanted to create a safe place for people to talk and to chat about things. And that's how the thing took off. First few sessions, I had people who are actually out of work and looking to promote and do demonstrations and kind of share with their knowledge. And that's how this whole thing started for me. And I know that I think it's so important. I mean, I'd love to know, you just mentioned yoga, and I don't know how yoga fits into you specifically, but I'd be curious to know is that part of your networking? Is it part of your decompression, or what exactly is that?
So, yes, yes, and yes. Although I think that was only two questions.
That's okay.
So I came to yoga very late in life. It was encouraged that I began much earlier in life, but I thought yoga meant standing on your head, being able to put your leg behind and all that kind of stuff. That is not what it is. So a little less than a decade ago, I guess I went to my first class with a friend and really liked it. And then I accepted the invitation to do yoga teacher training classes only to deepen my own practice. So I got the 200-hour certificate, then I did the next year, and now I'm 500 hours. I don't teach on a regular basis in a traditional way, but it's just part of my life now. And even the very simple act of when things are spinning, knowing to put my feet on the ground and settle my body and breathe. And that little exercise I've done with so many people. And I've had feedback that, oh, I did that with someone else and it really helped them out of an anxiety moment. So the process of how I learned to become a yoga teacher, where I saw it all being broken down, helped me conceptualize the milestone marketing blueprint division of Sargent Marketing, and then helped me teach it in a way that I teach people how to do marketing strategy if they don't have money to invest in someone doing it for them, or I prepare them to get someone to do it for them. So yoga just is a big part of my life now, and I do weave it into conversations and that sort of
So some of my New Jersey friends may remember from the Breakfast Club, which was an in-person event that was done every month, and now it's virtual. We actually had a couple of times where we would actually do like a deep breathing exercises even before the event started, and seeing a bunch of IT folks and those of us that really hadn't done it before, taking deep breaths and closing our eyes and just getting centered was really great when it was over because it was very relaxing. So I mean that's my only experience with something like yoga though. But
Well, you know what? Let's have a little fun. So everybody's watching this probably sitting down, right? So if
sure.
you're sitting or standing, if you just feel your feet flat on the ground, they might be resting on your chair or you might be, bouncing your knee, but just put the full foot feet on the ground. And then recognize how you're sitting. I've been like this talking to you, right? Come back, sort of a line. Are your shoulders up here? Bring them down. Take your hands and put them flat on the desk. Feel everything. Kind of level your head, level your chin, and just breathe. And exhale it out. Just do it a couple times. Close your eyes, open them, and just let it relax. And it can ground anything. And
Yeah, I'm trying.
even if there's noise in the background.
Well, there's a lot of noise in the background because we're having in our house right now. We're having a brick put on the side of the house, so they're taking off the old brick today, and every once in a while I hear that. Ugh. So it's not you guys; it's the brick in the background. And I tried to work out a deal where they would take their lunch when we're doing this, but as you can see, it didn't totally work. So
It's
that's why
okay.
I know,
And
but I feel like Brenda Miller talks about things happen. It's a life lesson. This is the way it is. You just go with the flow.
and really that is how you bring yoga into it. I mean, I'm seeing, great comments in the chat here. It's Christmas time, right? They say, make a list for Santa.
Mhm.
I'm sure, and anyone on this call, this live right now, that's taking the time to listen, there's a reason that they came to it, and hopefully we'll satisfy that. And if there's specific questions, if they put them in the chat, we will definitely answer them. And so that list is just too long every day, every week, every month, every year. So if we can accept that, we know to write them, it gets it out of our head and out of that spin cycle, and then we can prioritize. So what I think would be really maybe useful for our shared audiences, you help people get jobs, get new jobs, help them when they're not employed. I help people when they want to take their businesses or nonprofits to the next level. Or if they're entrepreneurs with businesses, help them get to the next level. So, one of the things I like to talk about is helping people understand whether they're looking for a job or a business. Three three steps of a buyer's journey. If and I would like to suggest that people looking for a job adopt a buyer's journey attitude, which is difficult when you're laid off, if that's a scenario. And I've been laid off. The entire marketing department of the Record got laid off when I worked there. I got rehired by the agency that took over that account to continue to do the PR and community relations, but that wasn't a certainty. And I just had a baby. Um, so it was an uncertain time. And I know you've talked about that as well. But the awareness stage is becoming familiar with something and finding out where the pain points align. And the consideration stage is someone's considering if they need your services, whether you're an employee or not, and you're considering if that's someone you can help properly. And then the decision stage is, do I take an action? Do I want to interview someone? Do I want to ask someone for a meeting? Does someone want to take a meeting with me? So those three stages, awareness, consideration, and decision, I think can apply to both of our audiences, but you may want to
Well, I remember I moved in 2007 from one town to the other to a much larger house because we needed it. And 6 months later, I got fired at UPS. So all of a sudden, I'm like, here's the big financial crisis, and who knows what's going to be happening. And meanwhile, I have a mortgage to pay, and I have bills to pay, and it was not fun. But I just did everything I needed to do to keep busy and did not get depressed and sad and frustrated, which is not easy. I'm not here to say it is. And I had a lot of my moments where I was so frustrated. And I think it's so important. That's why I started networking. That's why I attended meetings. And that's why I feel now with these events, I come from a place where I understand how some of this goes. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I can relate in a different way. And I always wanted to pay it forward when I could, because unless you've gone through this, as you have and I have, it's not the same thing as someone else who's going to just talk about it secondhand.
Well, I call that being in the club. And at this point in my life, I have belonged to lots of clubs I'd never thought I'd be in. But with each of those, I learned something. And this yoga Zen attitude, trust me, it wasn't natural for me. I like to control my destiny, or I thought I was controlling it. My middle name is planning. Actually, when I got married, the priest said that it was the best planned wedding since the Vatican II. And tells you, dates that, of course, but that is something I still do. But as I said, now I know that list is always too long, and a plan is a guide. And also about not getting depressed or, concerned. Everyone does at some point, and there could be different levels of it, but it's important to kind of go through that process as long as you can recognize it. And if it becomes something that needs professional attention, get it. And otherwise, a good walk in the woods, just outside. Self-care, 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 self-care. I could talk about that all day long. Self-care is not selfish. You can only give to yourself, your employer, your family, if you are taking care of yourself. I hope, and I think the younger generation knows that a little more than we did, but I'm a big believer in that.
Well, I think also there's the mindset that job search is a 40-hour-a-week full-time job, and it's not. It can be more, it can be less. It's how you put forth the effort. It's what you do with your time, and it's also having results that are quantifiable. Everyone wants to get a job, at some point, but it's getting one step to the next. And I think that's so important. You can't, you got to have achievable goals. You'll feel better about it. And then you have to have realistic goals too.
And when you asked about doing these lives, one of the ways that I held myself accountable for it is I set a time of week. Wednesdays at 2 o'clock, I do mine. And I know that's a busy time. Everybody can't come on the live, but they live on LinkedIn. They live on other social media. I turn mine into a column on medium.com afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So the intent of creating the content is not to have a huge audience right there, but even with job searching or prospecting or network, put it on the calendar, and I color code it on the calendar, and hold yourself accountable to it, and give yourself credit for what you do accomplish in that time, and keep on going. And it's a numbers game, whether you're selling yourself for a job or shopping for a job or for new clients, and really go at it with a service intention. And it is like you said, when that happened to you, you just bought a house. There's real pressures in life when we don't have jobs. No one is minimizing that, but we try to do the best you can to stay healthy. Otherwise, we get in that panic and desperation mode, and that doesn't help us get a new job or a new client.
I mean, this is Marty's mantra is ABP, always be positive, which is true. No one is going to hire someone who doesn't smile, who isn't upbeat. I do think you brought a good point. This generation, the younger generation, comes from a much different place than we did. If they're looking for a job, they have no issue saying, I'm looking for a job. I think in our generation was, we didn't really want to ask for help as much. We were kind of afraid of what our previous employers might think. What are we going to do? What's going to happen? It's a much different mindset now. Maybe that's social media and LinkedIn. Maybe that's just the way that they were brought up.
Uh, in part, for sure. Let's talk about LinkedIn,
Sure.
because you are an expert on LinkedIn.
Not an expert.
What?
Not an expert. It's just I appreciate that.
Well, you're very experienced on LinkedIn, and networking happens there. And LinkedIn, and even for my clients want company pages, all great. There's not much I can do on a company page to make that, blow up with followers if the employees are not engaged. All of this social media is about people connecting with people. And sure, there's a lot of, you know, things that are not great about it, but if you use it properly and you use it to contribute to a conversation, um, you do meet new people that way. And it's a really nice way if you've networked and met someone, and you drop in on LinkedIn with each other and you follow what each person is talking about, and thumbs up or clap is all fine, but if you have a sentence that you can say back to someone, they appreciate it, and it also does help your algorithms. And no one wants someone to connect with you on LinkedIn and send you a sales pitch immediately.
Pitch slap. Pitch slap.
Pitch slap.
We we call it pitch slap. It's when you get the connection request, they accept, or you accept, and then it's in 10 seconds later. Hi, how are you? Are you interested in this? Are you interested in that? And then I've gotten them like 2 days later, the same one, and then 2 days after that, and then it's like enough. It's kind of like a whack-a-mole sometimes, and a lot of us in this community we talk about that, but it's true. I've even told people now when they connect, don't reply back with a follow-up. Give it some time. There's no rush. You don't, because it's a numbers game.
Yeah, yeah. So Ken, I know some people that are looking for jobs, and in this case, if you're looking for a job, unless you just started, you've been looking for a job for a while. It's how it goes today. And in employers, when we were looking for jobs, we got letters back. I mean, I've been self-employed for so long, I think I'm certifiably unemployable by a real company anymore. But that doesn't happen anymore. They apply electronically and it goes into a black hole. Job fairs are still out there. There are people getting jobs by going in person. So there's not only one way to look for a job today. And I have people that are doing it. So I'm not an expert in the looking for jobs part, but you have a lot more wisdom on that. I'd love to hear what you have to say for them at this time of year.
Well, the thing is, the about section should be written from the stand of how can you help the next person, the next place you're going to work at. It's not your history as much. It's not what you did. It's what can you do? The old "what's in it for me" mindset. At least get their attention in the first few lines. You definitely want to put certain keywords and list it, and you want to make it look clear. I think the mistake people make is not everything on LinkedIn is going to be read by someone, but you'll be searched. So don't worry about every little thing. I mean, even putting skills within each of the jobs. But I change my profile every week. I tweak it all the time. And I think that's the one biggest mistake. It's a living document. No one's LinkedIn profile is complete. But above all, you ask people, if you don't know how to do something on LinkedIn, ask the question on LinkedIn. Ask us. People are so willing to help. And if you don't ask that question, I'm not a big believer in just going online and doing Google searches for this stuff because it's outdated so quickly. It's based on some best practices, but we have such a wonderful community. And, as Marty says, you want to show your value to others on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is about building relationships. You're not going to get a job per se on LinkedIn, but you'll get closer to a job. Brenda Miller, who's on the call now, she does a Friday call with VIP job seekers every Friday from 10 to 11. Something similar to me. And it's a great opportunity to learn from us. We've all been through a lot of these things that people have been through, but it's recognizing what you can and can't do. It's knowing it's a numbers game, but you want to increase yourself. And it's little things like put your email address in the about section. Don't assume people can find you. Don't assume. I was actually with a career coach, a LinkedIn career coach today, a person. And it was kind of ironic because we started talking about things and we were just trading our knowledge and we each taught each other things. And I said to this person, I said, I do not take criticism. I'm not defensive. I'm learning from you and I hope you're learning from me because I don't take it personally. I'll learn from you. I'll learn from anyone because that's what makes me better, what makes the other person better. None of us have the total secret sauce. We have little bits of it.
That learner's mindset, I think that's why I still love marketing and still love learning. I thought I was going to be a special ed teacher. When I went to college, thank goodness I went to a school with a good education school, and they put us right in the field for a semester. And I went into a resource room in an inner city, and I just was lost. I said, I'm not ready for this. But I went to the business school in marketing the second semester, and it was such a good fit. And lo and behold, marketing, I mean, paid advertising is for awareness. But so much of marketing today is education. It's helping people. And most of your marketing has to be how you're going to help someone. And then that consideration phase is a narrower pool considering you. And then the decision phase is even narrower. So that's again for job searchers and client searchers, be of assistance. And as you said, LinkedIn is a networking platform. It either just turned 20 years old or is about to turn 20 years old. It even was out a few months, I think, before Facebook. So the next time you go in on LinkedIn, look at it a little differently and use the keywords. Find the people that you want to interact with. And you mentioned that people don't get a job on LinkedIn. Yes and no, right? I actually know a young professional who I forget if they got laid off or what happened. It was, during those last few years, but she went on LinkedIn and interacted with people and engaged. And lo and behold, struck up some relationships. And one of them did refer them to either their company or a company. And she ended up getting a job there. So you don't know where it's going to come from, but it comes from being of service and being brave. And you asked about, doing these lives.
Right.
I'm a marketer for decades. I was a publicist for a long time. I prepared other people to be interviewed. So for then me to put myself out here to be the host, And now being on other people's shows, I had to go through the same process that I had to take other people through. And I hired people to help me get ready too, to help me get out of my own head.
Hmm.
So I'm a real big believer in getting professional help in anything that you want to move forward with. But that learner's mindset, there's always something new to learn, and that humbles you and keeps you relevant at the same time.
Well, one of the things which I don't share very often is, yes, when I was out in 2008, I volunteered at my son's PTA and did what I needed to do. What I could never imagine is that people at the PTA knew people in the school district, and I actually did some substitute teaching, which to this day is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It is extremely hard to teach a class of teenagers in high school. And this is back then, trying to get their attention, and you know, I laugh at it now because I was horrible at it, but at the same time, it paid the bills.
And I'm sure you learned so much from the
I learned
kids.
what I didn't want to do,
So we both,
but I also learned I could teach people, but I had to, but in a different age group. You know, like I wasn't going to be able to relate to 20 or 25 kids who were all doing different things and awake. I mean, school would start in our town at 7:20 in the morning, so they were like still half asleep at that hour, and but it was a wonderful life lesson.
well, I think we both learned what it takes to be a teacher in a classroom, and developed a tremendous respect for that. And you and I both made the decision that that wasn't where our talents were going to lie, but we both did end up becoming teachers, in our respective fields. So that's as people are looking for jobs, and growing their businesses, it's the same mindset. You continue to learn, continue to observe, and follow the path.
And as Joey Himmelfarb was on the call would say, to know that you're not the smartest person in the room and that someone knows more about you. Once you have that mindset, it helps a lot. I'm always learning to this day, and you learn from people because no one knows everything, and people have different perspectives. I need people to tell me things, and sometimes I'm not going to agree, and I'm not going to be happy, but I'm going to accept it.
And at this point, I don't know about you, but I love not being the smartest person in the room, because that means I get to be lifted up. And but I know that my talent can help the smartest people in the room. Sometimes I'm the smartest person in the room, but not generally. And not no one is the smartest person in the room on every topic. That is what we have to remember. There is a time, if we're talking about marketing, I could be the smartest person in the room, depending. But very, very important to surround yourself by people who do know things that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you all are exactly the same, who needs either one of you? And be confident and be humble, and um, just keep showing up. I that is something I say to anyone looking for a job. Keep showing up until they ask you not to,
Right.
and just keep going, keep going. That's where my whole thought process of milestone mindsets and milestone marketing. And it really came from my dad talking about stepping stones when we were younger. But that was generally like stepping stones into something that's going to lead you down the wrong path. But I'm talking about milestones that are going to lead you to your revenue, to your goals.
I will never be able to ski, although having said that, I may be asked to try. But what I've learned from my kids is that things that are very intuitive to them are not intuitive to me. Like there was a time, and I'm going to date myself now, of course, when I had to go to a manual, I had to look something up to find out how to fix something, and now everything is on YouTube.
I
Or
love YouTube.
I know, but
For that.
it's it's just the way that we're used to doing things. And I think one of the issues that we have at our age is the age discrimination part. That happens a lot. It happens in reverse with people that are just getting started. So, are there any? I mean, I have faced it. I still face it at times. I don't know if you faced it or not, but How do you handle things that come up like that?
Um, well, I think for me,
Hmm.
in my own having my firm for
Right.
marketing, experience is a plus.
Hmm.
Um, so I can't think of when I didn't get a client because of that. But I do know, I believe that in job searching, you're either too experienced, too old, too young, too this, too that, except when you have the right fit, then everything's fine. So all those things are real, and but we need to keep believing in ourselves. And if someone is making that decision based on your age, too much, too little, or something, you probably don't want to work there anyway. That's a very hard thing to accept when the bills are coming in and you have a family to feed or your own rent to pay. But how do I um, present myself? Obviously, I've been around for a while, is through how I can help. Um, how about you? How do you handle it?
Well, I probably, the last few times when before I left corporate, um, I pretty much only interviewed at places where I looked them up and I saw that they had a good track record of hiring people of a certain age, and they wanted experience. But you can tell pretty early on in the process whether discrimination exists or not by little things. And so I preach to people that are out of work or in transition or whatever the term is now. You are not your job. You don't lose your experience when you lose your job, but it's how do you control what you can control? You're a certain age, so now call yourself a mentor, call yourself a teacher. Don't call yourself over experienced. I mean, Brenda uses the term experience rich, which I love.
Mm.
It's all about perception, but don't be your own worst enemy. Um, it is possible that you don't, from a hiring manager's perspective, they may see you and say, you need to make X. Well, maybe you don't need to make X. You only need to make Y because you want to take a break. You don't want the stress, whatever it is. And I think there's so many um, things out there, so many assumptions that are being made, and you want to bring it to your attention. But if the place isn't going to work, it's not going to work, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Well, I think applying to college today, applying for jobs, um, uh, uh, writing proposals to clients, because of technology, there's so much many more of these proposals, applications, and everything going through. And a lot of times things are screened by algorithms and computers. But that's where go back to LinkedIn, networking, and offline and online, and ask for information interviews. It is not just the thing that happened back in the day. People love to share their information. So ask for a 15-minute conversation. It will help. And if your door closes one way, then open it another. My very first job, I didn't know. I knew I was going to work on Madison Avenue in advertising, but I didn't know I should have been applying for that much sooner than I did. So I also had another skill. I could type. So I typed my way into Madison Avenue and I became a secretary on the Huggies and account and got tremendous experience. But one door was closed. I figured out
Mhm.
another door to go in. But it is a numbers game, Ken. Don't you agree? And
I
that's
do, and I
where,
wanted to I wanted to ask you a question from a marketing standpoint.
hmm,
If someone wants to reach out to you and they're going to connect with you on LinkedIn, do you want the personalized message? And if you do, what do you want? How do you want to be approached? Are you just okay with people connecting? Because I know from a job search coach perspective, I would ask a person who's connecting to have some sort of a call to action or some specific reason. But I'm going to ask from you, you're on a little bit different side than me. So let's say if people want to be on this call and want to connect with you, um, what's the suggestion you might make?
well, when you were a guest on my show last time, people did reach out and said, got to know you on Ken's show. And that was really cool because that just told me that they knew who I was a little bit. So when somebody connects with me on LinkedIn, I do look at their headline and their about section to see if I feel like they are a salesperson or not. And so I kind of look at that. But I think a personal note is a good idea. I know that sometimes people don't have time. It doesn't have to be a big note, but just something a little warm. The same thing as if, I'm going to networking events next week where there's going to be hundreds of people at both events. And I'm going to say hello in a friendly way first. And
Mhm.
I'll ask a question or two, or they'll ask a question or two, and we will be sizing each other up to see if we want to spend a lot of time with each other. I mean, we're not going there to make friends, especially in December. There's a lot of, we're going to be cordial, and I know I'm going to come out with so many more contacts. So I always think a short little personal note, even just, I'd like to connect with you. I think we have some mutual interest would be fine. What do you think?
I think a lot of us in this industry are so inundated with things called pitch slaps, which are the financial people, the salespeople that connect with you under one pretense or want to connect with you, and then they send you a note right away. I try to reply back or send them a message first. In some cases, I would almost rather not have a personalized invite because I know what's going to come up next. So it really depends with me. I have a lot of connection requests I will never get to because um, I have no frame of reference. But the people that send me something that shows that they've connected, that they've listened to an event, they've met me or something, that makes a lot more difference than just the cut and paste. Hi, I noticed you have some really great connections. Let's connect. Or hi, I found something about your profile that was very interesting. And it's just a cut and paste with some automation tool. So it's a numbers game, and it's hard because of all the connection requests I get. I probably accept maybe half, maybe less, because people can follow me. Um, so again, it's not a right or wrong. You could talk to 50 people, they'll give you 50 slightly different answers.
Well, I think just like in person, you can get a vibe and a feel, and it's not a gut, it's not a black and white. It's sometimes a gut reaction to accepting. I also think that um, you can look at their profile too. I mean, that's what I would do.
Right.
And also, don't be offended if someone doesn't accept your connection. Not everyone is on LinkedIn every day like we are,
Right.
and so if someone doesn't connect with you, either take it as they don't think they can help you or they didn't get to it and keep going. That's my phrase, keep going.
Keep going. I know that you and I both have creator mode, and that has a lot of things that are very relevant. Is there anything that you wanted to end with mentioning or talking about? Because I want to make sure that, you get to all the things we had talked about before.
Well, I think I would just like to say to everyone as we're about to approach December, to take that deep breath, to really give yourself credit for what you've done this year, and do think about your goals. Write them down. For me, if they're written down, they're important. And reach out to professionals to support your goals. On LinkedIn, it's free. Take a consulting call with someone that can help you, whether it's look for a job, get new clients, get new donors. Those are the things that Ken and I can help you do. And decide what you're going to invest in yourself next year. If it's your personal development, if you have a job and you want to get a promotion, we kind of talked about getting jobs when you didn't have one, but most people have jobs and want new jobs if they're at that stage. So I want to say, remember three things. In any communications, there's the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the decision stage. And the people who need to be aware of you have to be way greater in numbers than anyone who's ever going to make a decision to talk to you. And whether you're looking for a job or new clients or donors, you're also looking for the right people. It's not just quantity, it's quality. So I know, like you can, I'm available to talk to anyone who sincerely wants to advance their business or nonprofit. And I will share gladly information with people as appropriate.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just to emphasize, I will connect with everyone here. I mean, it's really just about the connections from people that really have only one goal in mind, and that's to sell something. And no, I don't think anyone on these calls is like that, but a lot of us on those calls get those requests. So I want to thank everyone for attending today. Next week, we're actually going to be taking this to LinkedIn Audio because it's going to be a different type of event. And Nancy, you're welcome to join. It's just going to be having a discussion like this, except it's not like this. You'll just be able to listen to it on your phone or your laptop. It's part of the testing that a bunch of us are doing as the rollout. So again, thank you everyone for attending. Have a great December. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'm not ready for snow yet here. I want to thank you guys for bearing with a little bit of the noise in the background. I think they've stopped for now. I think hopefully they've stopped for the rest of the day. I took my Advil before this, so I was prepared that way. So have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.